Well, hello and happy new year to you. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Rita. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and a great New Year's Eve or day. I am going to jump right into this video today. Okay, so this is going to be a slight deviation from what I usually talk about. And sometimes I would deviate a little bit on my car rants playlist. When I'm driving, sometimes I just, share my thoughts with you guys. But I am not driving right now. I do have a computer though, because some of you might know I haven't had a computer for a while. I finally got one. So yes, but I do not have a car, so I haven't been doing car rants. Anyway, totally long-winded. Let me get right into it. So today's video is going to be why, if you are a Midwesterner, or why Texas in general may not be for you. Now, I haven't lived in every single part of Texas. I have visited a lot of the more popular parts of Texas. I'll admit I haven't been to like the Panhandle part, the northernmost part. I've not been to the westernmost part. But I have been in a lot of places in Texas, and this video is going to be for my Midwesterners, maybe even my Northeastern people who may be thinking about moving to Texas but aren't sure. And I'm going to touch on some things in this video that some of the things I have seen on YouTube and social media, whatever, about people who talk about, kind of the things to know. Now, I see a lot of these videos on YouTube are from realtors who live in Texas. So the perspective might be a little bit different. And I haven't watched every video, but my suspicion is that the perspective is going to be different just because, they live there, whatever. And maybe a lot of people are from there. A lot of these realtors are from there or have been there for years and years and years. Now, I spent 4 years in Texas. So this is from my perspective. Now, I'm going to say right off, I did not like it. More of it, I think, was cultural and just what I'm used to. And so I was not comfortable there. And I'm going to get into some of those things. Now, I'm going to tell you right up front. Again, this is from somebody who is originally from Chicago, who still lives in the Midwest. I did stay in Texas for 4 years, but now having been back to the Midwest for a year and mulling this over, if whether or not I even want to share this video, yada, yada, yada. I'm talking so much. Let me just get into it. First, disclaimer, if you're from Texas and you get offended, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to offend you, but I am trying to give information to people who may have some similar views that I do and are from the Midwest and are used to certain things that they are not going to get. And even from, like I said, maybe some parts of the Northeast, you are not going to get in Dallas, Texas. Okay, now that that's out the way, let's get right on it. I got my list here. Number 1, geography and urban development. Now, as I stated earlier, I am born and raised in Chicago, only left Chicago in left Chicago proper in 2011, moved out to the suburbs, and lived there until 2018 when I moved to Texas. And also someone who has been in and through pretty much, all of the Midwest, right? And there are some strings of similarity. If you go through the Midwest region, there are things that are standard in the Midwest. Now, and this is the place I'm coming from. The geography and the climate in Texas is going to be different for you. If you are from the Midwest, you are used to lots of trees. You are used to lots of greenery. You are used to lots of public parks and hiking trails and forest preserves and woods and all of that stuff, right? You're going to be used to park districts and things like that. This is not a thing in Texas. Not saying that they don't have parks, but this is something that if you're from the Midwest, you probably just take for granted, and you probably just assume that every place in the country has 10,000 lakes. Like if you're in Minnesota, you probably just assume that every place has greenery everywhere and water everywhere. You're not going to get that in Dallas. Dallas is very concrete. It is very hot, but I'll get to that later. But it is very gray. So like I said, we lived a little bit outside of Dallas. My husband worked in Dallas proper. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but he worked in Dallas proper. We lived a little bit outside of north of Dallas, and the green space is lacking. So what you'll find is if you find a park, if you find one, parks are not a thing. So we found one, I think, in Fort Worth. It wasn't very well kept. It seemed kind of forgotten and kind of seedy. Like there were people kind of hanging out in parked cars. And it, like I said, especially if you're from Chicago, like you already know the parks are, you can't walk 3 blocks without running into a public park, right? That's nice. But I digress. Not a thing in Texas. We happened to find a beach, and it was a tiny little thing on a man-made lake that was, when I tell you, jam-packed, and you had to pay to get in for parking, and you couldn't leave. If you left, you'd have to, if you came back, you'd have to pay again. Everything seems to be private property. If you find any little pinch of water, it's all private property or owned by like the military or something, and it's not really accessible to people, or you have to pay. It's just all weird, and again, not really kept. So that's the number one thing, geography. So you ain't gonna be hiking and all of that stuff. You can just forget about it. Park districts, nope. Dallas is not the place. Dallas is not the place for you. If you think you're gonna be doing all that and you're gonna be going through woods, it's not that kind of party. Number 2, trades. If you are in the Midwest, well, you are used to making a certain amount in the trades, no matter what trade you are. If you are a laborer, you're probably starting off with $20 an hour. The Midwest is known for being very trades heavy, very union heavy. So you have a scale that you come in at, and then you have base scale once you finish your apprenticeship for 3-4 years, your apprenticeship, whatever. And then you start making scale, which can be 40, 50, depending on your trade, $60 an hour. Forget it. If you are in Texas and you are in the trades, be prepared to either start your own business or make $12.50, maybe $15 an hour if you're lucky, maybe. And it does not matter which trade it is, because the value of, I'm not going to tell you I don't believe. I know that trades is viewed differently. It's viewed in a different light, I think, because there's a lot of cheap labor down here, and you don't have to go through an apprenticeship or learn, have your OSHA certifications or any of that stuff. You don't have to do any of that stuff down there. You got cheap labor, and a lot of the craftsmanship shows it. I'm just saying. That's all I'm going to say. So yes, trades, if you are in the trades, expect to make way, way less than what you're making in the Midwest, by and large. Number 3, the food. So if you think you're going to go there and you're just going to hobble on over to the store and get yourself some proper giardiniera and make yourself an Italian beef honey with some sirloin tip roast, nope. Because a lot of the stores don't sell the types of stuff that are very Midwestern, let's just say. So brats, not a thing there. You can find them, but here there's a whole huge aisle or fridge full, like a whole thing. It's not that kind of thing. So the food is different. The thing that we could not escape in Texas, Tex-Mex. We could not escape it. And Tex-Mex, don't be fooled. It's not the Mexican food that you think you're going to get when you go to, wherever you go for tacos. And it's an amalgamation of like Texas and Mexican food or something with like queso dip type cheese. And it's just not what you think. It's not what you think. And it's everywhere. Every restaurant, I haven't found a restaurant that serves just Mexican food. You'll have to go to a gas station, and you're not going to want to, but that's where you're going to have to go if you want to get like what you're used to. If you're in the Midwest, you're going to have to go to a gas station for Mexican food. If you see a Mexican restaurant that's all pretty, that's going to be Tex-Mex. I'm just going to let you know. Other than that, barbecue, again, food. So in the Midwest, we have more of Memphis style or a Kansas City style barbecue here. And in the Texas, it's Texas style barbecue. It's different. They don't serve it with sauce. It's dry rub. It's just different. Seasoned different. It's just different. Speaking of seasoning, a lot of food, in my opinion, and probably because I'm from the Midwest, very overseasoned. But that's what you're gonna get. Lots of salt and lots of Tex-Mex. Okay, moving on from food. Next, strip malls. Now, everywhere you go in the US, you're going to come across some strip malls. That's not uncommon. The quantity of strip malls in Texas is something that I am not used to. I am more familiar with a lot more mom and pop shops. Like I said, if you're from Chicago or even New York or any of the Northeast major cities, it's a lot of strip malls. A lot of strip. Lots. I think almost everything is a strip mall. Yeah. You're not going to find some building that was built in like 1910 with like loft condos or storefronts beneath it. Lots of strip malls. Okay. And that's the other thing. And low-hanging electrical wires that I noticed driving along the highway. This was on the way to Houston though, so maybe that doesn't apply. Maybe Dallas too. Anyway, definitely going into Houston, but that's a different video. Okay. Next on the list, the cost of living. So I used to hear all the time how cheap Texas was. It was Texas is so cheap. Texas is so inexpensive. Oh, you can get a 2-bedroom for, $1,200 in a nice, beautiful area or whatever. No, you won't. The cost of living is compared to the Midwest. Now, a lot of people don't know this. I hear a lot of people in videos talk about the coasts. Prices for even buying a home, the prices have gone up just a little bit in the Midwest, for Midwest prices, but it's still cheaper than the coast. So if you're coming from the Midwest, even if you're coming from Chicago, it's still going to be cheaper than, like, if you want a nice place in Chicago, like in a nice neighborhood, you are probably going to be paying something pretty similar in a neighborhood in Texas. Just saying. So the cost of living is relative to what your lifestyle is, what your quality of life you're looking for. If you don't mind where you live, you could probably find a cheaper place. Funny story, real quick, a short deviation. So we met a guy there who was from New Jersey, and he found an apartment with cheap-ish rent compared to New Jersey. And he thought, it's a little rough, but I'm from New Jersey, whatever. He moved out of there in like a month. He broke his lease because somebody got shot right in front of his window. I'm just saying. And this was in a nicer or a pretty decent area, just north of Dallas. But I'm just saying, it's different. It's different. Okay, moving on. This one is a huge one for me. And the reason I'm huffing and puffing about it is because I think, and this is because I'm kind of a freak about cleanliness and things being kept, that this one's kind of a big deal for me. Streets and sanitation and just the tidiness of it all. So I think part of this has to do, now I'm going to just say, the streets and sanitation, along with the parks and recreation stuff that I talked about earlier, I think part of this is the way the government in Texas is run. Sanitation is on the fringes of priority. What I've noticed. Public trash cans are not like a major thing. Texas is not like that. And I think, like I said, it's because of the politics. They don't believe in a bigger government. They believe in a smaller government. So they pick and choose what they prioritize. And sadly, I think that streets and sanitation is one of those things that is not a priority in Texas. But this is kind of one of my big ooh-wees. And one of the first things I noticed was debris all up and along down the side of the highway. And I don't mean like little cup here and there. Like if you're from the Midwest, You don't think about this. I know you don't. I know you don't, because you're used to it being all clean and pristine. You're used to seeing those trucks sweeping, coming down, up and down the street and up and down the highway. Stalled cars. You leave your car stalled, you will not come back to it. They will tow it because they don't believe in having trash along the side of the road. However, I notice in Texas every day, no matter where, I'm talking from end to end. We've been to Galveston, we've been to Austin, Houston, lived near Dallas, the whole thing. Debris along the highways, debris in the grass. Again, no public trash cans. It's sort of untidy, even in restaurants. So back in the day, I worked in the restaurant industry, and we had busboys who would, as soon as the people got up from the table, they were over there wiping down, spraying everything. I don't know how they do things. I don't know if the servers have to clean their tables or what, but I did not notice anybody ever sweeping, mopping, nothing. There is a debris and unkemptness, sorry for my Texas people, about it. When you got to put a sign up, and when you have to put signs up to say, there's a gas station that has billboards that say, come visit us, our bathrooms are clean. When you see those signs, that means it's not the norm. So I know I spent a lot of time on this. That's because it gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about, honestly, it's not as tidy as I would prefer. Yeah, not as tidy. Next, Southern hospitality. So some of you may think about Texas, and you might, in your mind, you might be thinking North Carolina, Arkansas. You might be thinking, Southern hospitality. No, it's different. And I know people are going to jump in and say, no, but a lot of Californians and New Yorkers have moved there. Nope. These folk here that I'm talking about that are not very pleasant, these are people from Texas. And the nice thing, it's very interesting because it's almost like a surface level nice. It's not like a hi, I acknowledge you, like good morning. Like I never got that in stores, and people never say, oh, good morning or good night, happy new year, have a nice day. Like people just don't converse like that. And I know you've heard of the term Midwest nice. Well, if you're from the Midwest, you already know Midwest nice. Again, one of those things you take for granted. You know, sometimes people give you the Midwest wave or the nod, because it's just not a thing down there. In the Dallas area, I think all of it though, honestly. I mean, if you go to a small town, it may be a little different. No, we lived kind of in a smaller-ish area. Well, anyway, I feel like everybody's hustling. Everybody is like on their hustle, like gunning and running. And nobody's like stopping to acknowledge people. We've like stopped to just say hi or acknowledge like a homeless person or something. And they say something like, wow, I've been out here like for the whole day and nobody even would say hi to me, which is so uncommon here in the Midwest. And it's something that you would have to get used to. You're probably just taking it for granted now, but when you go somewhere where it's not as common, you're going to notice. And that brings me to my next thing, meeting people. So again, just on the tail end of what I just talked about, meeting people is virtually impossible, I guess, if you work and stuff. But again, it's just different. People aren't as friendly. And I know there's some of you in Texas who are friendly, and I hate to cast a huge brush like that, but I was there 4 years, and I had some of the conversations I had were really surface level. And I feel like you have to be a part. Maybe there's some clubs. Maybe that's how people get together. Like you got to be a part of a club, a neighborhood club or a social club, or it's just weird. Like you don't go into a store, or you can't go into a store and just meet somebody and have a whole conversation and like have a great time. And like that's pretty common in the Midwest to, just like shoot the breeze with a random person in the store and like, talk. And it's not as common there, I find. I mean, even when I went outside of Dallas, it was all very different in that way and how people communicate. Maybe that's it. Maybe we just are from somewhere else and we don't. Because when my husband he would open the door for people or like let people pass, male or female, because that's just what you do in the Midwest. And usually, and guys would give him a nasty look when he just was. So maybe it's just a culture difference and people just It's just different, maybe. But that's something that you have to get used to. It's hard to meet people because people are very tunnel vision and focused on whatever they got going on. So that's that. Next, the crime. Oh, the crime. The crime, baby, the violent crime. I'm going to pop a little map up right here and just show you guys a little heat map to show you all the violent crime. So, funny story. So, like I told you, my husband worked in Dallas proper, and he actually, we did have to start our own business because my husband is in the trades. So, in order to even make a decent living there, he had to start his own business. He would work on high-end homes in Dallas, and they are, let me tell you, very gated. It's weird. Everything is gated, by the way. There are tract homes all over yonder, like everywhere. And I think it's because it's more newly developed in Texas, like because it's growing so fast that everything is like cookie cutter by and large, like tract homes and gated communities where you have to pay an HOA. Everything is HOA, and that's where you're going to get your parks. Anything outside of an HOA and the gates or the walls, not even gates, walls, miles and miles of walled off communities. Outside of that, you're not going to really find parks and pools and stuff like that. Anyway, I digress. He would work on high-end houses, and he is being here. He's used to just like leaving his tools on his bed as he's unloading. You know, you unload your stuff into the house, you're bringing your tools into the house, and the clients, and I'm talking about these are over $1 million homes. And the clients would tell him, oh, you can't do that here. He's like, but I'm just unloading. They're like, oh, no, not even for a second. Not even for a second. We have people sometimes who drive through these neighborhoods and look for, and I was just, so that's how rampant the crime is. There are no boundaries. It's just, and again, it's different. It's not the same. It's something that if you're from the Midwest, you are going to have to get used to. Can crime happen everywhere? Sure. But if you're from the Midwest, you already know what I'm talking about. There are some places that you can go and expect that the crime is going to be a little bit higher. But by and large, other places, you're going to, if you leave your car unlocked, like nobody's going to jump in as soon as you turn your back. Depending on where you are. Chicago, okay, yeah, now maybe. But, for the most part, you're okay. Not in Texas, even in the nicest of nice areas. You cannot do anything like that. It is, we have a friend who, buddy had a shootout with a couple of guys who he just walked over to, I think they follow him. They call it something. I forget what they call it, where they follow you from the bank. And, people are just sitting at the bank waiting for people to come out, and they follow you. And then the guy parked somewhere. He went into a restaurant or whatever to use the bathroom. He came out and two guys were rummaging through his truck that he had locked the door. They had busted the window. And this was a nice area in Dallas. I'm just saying the crime is a problem in Texas. Y'all, the crime. And I know we have the crisis at the border and all that stuff, but baby, let me tell you the crime. That's something you got to think about if you're coming from, especially if you're coming from like Wisconsin or North Dakota or something like that, where it's like peep crime. The winter, baby, ain't that bad. I'm just saying. It ain't that bad. You can deal. Now, here is something that I'm going to talk about that is, again, something I have not heard other people talk about. This is not going to be may not be everybody's experience. It has been my experience. And that is, and I'm going to put these into one category or put them side by side. There is a palpable race and class division there. What do I mean? So there seems to be a certain type of expectation if you're Black in Texas. And it's very odd, and I can't put my finger on it. It's almost like, so there's this, I'm just going to come on out with it. I'm just going to say it. There's this real like hardcore kind of like hood vibe, not with everybody, but the culture, the Black culture, it's like this hood vibe. And if that's not you, people are gonna stare a lot and say things a lot, like other Black people, and even people who are not Black, even whites, kind of side eye you or stare or are. Everybody seems to be surprised and put off if you aren't like, with the eyelashes and with the whole Texas, with all the nails and the whole. If you're not like doing all that and you're Black. People will, number one, they know you're not from there pretty much. Number two, they kind of are like, I don't know, maybe it's like they feel like they've entered into like some kind of museum or zoo where they just kind of stare because they can't believe that all Black people are not alike. Anyway, so there's a weird race thing. And here's the biggest one. Mixed couples. If you are a mixed couple, if you have a mixed family, this is not a common thing down there. It's not it's common in the Midwest. Like nobody bats an eyelash. It's super common. People and I think because there's it's more class related up here. So you can be Black, white, Asian, Mexican, Puerto Rican, whatever. And you could be doing the same type of job that a white person, Black. I mean, we're all doing so I think the mixing of cultures and races is common up here. This is not a thing in Dallas. So we actually have had people like stare. Some people just stare. A funny stare, like something you do when you're like, oh, I see you, but I don't see you. Yeah, a lot of that. People have even asked us, oh, how'd you meet? That's interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. And you can tell they're just looking. One person actually said to my husband, oh, I see you got yourself a Black wife. How'd that happen? So this is real. It's very unusual for people there, I think, and it's not a common thing. Expect to get stares, expect for people to actually say things, expect for people to act weird. Also, people in grocery stores that I've gotten in conversations with only to find out one guy was from Michigan and asked my husband and I have had any weird looks or they weren't even sure what to call it, but they kind of felt like maybe it was prejudice. And how he kind of felt like that, but he thought maybe it was just him because his wife is white. And he was saying how he thought it was all in his head. And so it's a thing. It's a thing. I'm just saying. The race class thing. And okay, so that's the race thing. Now, but about the class thing, it seems to be that, as I mentioned earlier, trades, if you're a tradesman, which the Midwest is like, that's what we do up here. It is not that kind of culture in the South. The trades seem to be viewed as like lower class. For instance, my husband, people were always surprised when he would show up on the job site and they automatically thought, before we started our own company, they automatically thought that he owned the company and they were relieved is what he got. So this was his first taste of racism because they would say, he had one client, for instance, in particular, he had one that offered him that he could use their spare bathroom, but all the Mexicans on the job had to use the porta potties. So I'm just saying that's the thing. But this was our experience. And he wasn't sure how, he didn't even know. He was trying to figure out, was it racism or because he had never experienced this. And again, if you're from Chicago, you already know more. If you're in the trades, you know more than half the guys in the trades running work, owning companies, whatever, are Hispanic and Polish and everything else. But in Texas, trades are looked at as like you're the bottom of the barrel unless you own the construction company. So there is definitely a class race thing going on there that's really weird that I never hear anybody talk about, but that we totally experienced while we were there. Driving. Now you've seen other videos. If you're considering moving to Texas, you have seen other videos where people talk about driving. Baby, when I tell you. Now, the driving, so if you're from the Midwest, you know what we do when you are in the farthest left lane and somebody is going faster than you. What do? That's right. You put your blinker on and you glide on over to the right lane and get out of their way and you let them go on past, right? You're not getting that in Texas. People are ripping in every single lane down the highway, not using blinkers half the time, stuff falling off the back of the truck, baby. The government set up there aren't a lot of regulations on you need to strap that down or we will give you a ticket if you think you're going to let a big old whatever fly off the back of your truck and bust somebody's windshield. You are going to get ticketed. Stuff fly. We've seen things fly off people's truck. Down there, people whipping down the highway at 90 miles an hour and the speed limit is like 75. And yeah, so your car insurance is going to double, just so you know. We didn't even live inside of Dallas proper, and our car insurance more than doubled. No joke. When we left Illinois, our car insurance was $70. That was for 2 vehicles. It went up to $150 when we moved to Texas. $150, baby, and not $1.50, honey. So expect for your car insurance to go up because, baby, the driving, honey, and the accidents. One good thing about that, though, is when it snows and stuff, they don't know how to drive, especially in the snow. So you can just, take yourself on over to the store. There's going to be like 2 people in there. Probably they're going to be from somewhere cold where they know how to drive in the snow. It'll be you and just 2 of them. And the stores will be empty if they're open because everything usually shuts down. Okay, that's enough about the driving. Okay, moving on. Last but not least, honey, the heat, baby, the heat. So it is so hot almost all the time. And I don't mean like it gets hot in the Midwest. It's hot. Yeah. But no, this is a different kind of heat, honey. And so when it's hot in Chicago, we go to the beach and you can kind of wallow around the lake because the lake is still like minus 15, basically in the summertime. Even when it's 90 degrees out, the lake is still real cold. So you can you can have a good time outside. There is nothing to do outside. First of all, in Dallas, if you are somebody who thinks you're going to be, it's hot there, so I can be outside all year. I mean, you can, but there won't be anything for you to do. And there are no beaches that you think or lakes that you think you're going to lay up on and swim around in. We even went to Galveston one summer day and the ocean was hot. Yeah. So it was just like taking a bath. It was just like sweating on the beach. Even when you jumped in the water, it still felt like you were sweating in the beach, except now you smell like fish. You can't go outside. You're mostly just jumping from air conditioner to air conditioner in order to just have something to do. And with that, I want to couple that with what I was saying about like parks and recreation and stuff. So I guess I'm going to conclude with this actually, along with the heat thing. So like I said, there's really nothing to do outdoors. If you enjoy outdoorsy stuff, there's not a whole lot of offerings. And it's too hot. So, but here's the one thing. So I mentioned earlier about parks and recreation and stuff like that. There isn't a lot of fun spent on that. And so if you don't have any money, you are going to be bored to absolute tears in Texas. Or specifically, I'll just say Dallas. You are going to be so bored if you don't have money. Now, if you live in one of these walled communities, they might have a little bathtub of a pool that you can wade around in. But like I said, it's going to be like bath water because it's so hot. But if you're somebody who is low income or something like that, I don't recommend it. And I hate to say that, but it's not a place that has like recreational activities if you are low income. Like you have to be able to pay to go into, basically when it's hot, you're going into a restaurant or you're going to a gym or you have to be a part of some club that you have to pay for. We even found, like I told you earlier, small beaches or little parks or something where you actually have to pay to get in. So this is not a place that if you are on a real tight budget, but you still want to be able to enjoy some things, just like a nice day at the park or something like that, and just a nice hike or a bike ride. It is not poor people friendly. If you don't have money, I would definitely recommend not moving to Texas. So yeah, so this sounded like a huge rant against how much I hate Texas. There's one good thing. One good thing that I took away from Texas. And that is, we became firearm enthusiasts. You better in Texas, because the crime, baby. Even if you're in a nice neighborhood, you gotta be on a swivel. If you're from the Midwest, your head's gonna be on a swivel, honey, because it ain't what you're used to. I'm just saying, it's not what you're used to. Anyway, hey, I just wanted to pop in real quick. If you have not been persuaded not to move to Texas, then here are a few areas that I would recommend. I'm going to pop a map in here so you can see. And these areas are going to be Frisco, McKinney, Highland Village, Flower Mound. This general area here are decent. There are some parts of Plano, I think, that are okay. And Keller is another one that's decent. So these are areas that I would say are green, like a thumbs up. Roanoke, that's another kind of up and coming, but it's still kind of like development going on there. They have condos going on, like, and a little like Main Street nightlife type thing going on there. So that might be something you might want to look at too. All right, so I just want to let you guys know, I didn't want it to seem completely hopeless. I wanted to pop in here for the people who are dead set on going to Texas, although you will need some coin to move in these areas. But these are going to be the areas that are the most clean, in my opinion, the safest, and with the less riffraff. All right, the closer you get to Dallas, I would say the further south you go from these areas, the more the riffraff increases. So that's my little tidbit. All right. I was just being honest about how I really felt. Other people, I'm sure, don't feel like that. Some people move there from the Midwest and they love it and they feel, and it's amazing for them, yada, yada, yada. Good for you. God bless you. It was not my cup of tea. It was not my thing. Yeah, probably left out a whole bunch of stuff, probably for the best, since this video is already really long. Anyway, every now and again, I'll put out something a little different like this, like I used to. But in the meantime, have a great rest of your week. Again, Happy New Year, and I will chat with you soon. Ciao. God bless.